All right, so the next project is called the Pre-Columbian Vessel Project, and there's lots of options. It doesn't actually have to be a vessel, but many of them turn out that way, so I still call it that. But I have a bunch of samples from previous years, and the main goal of it is to learn to use engobes on your project. So there's different varieties, like we saw in the PowerPoint last week, of things you can do. These are some samples this student did a full sculpture. So now that we've tried a bunch of different types of building, you're welcome to do any of the types of buildings we've tried. If you want to work on the wheel, I'd suggest 2 smaller pieces because it's still kind of new, like 2 bowls or 2 mugs, and work the designs into there for your 10-inch requirement. If you want to do something larger, you can do a sculpture, you can do some sort of slab form as long as it's more complex than a straight box, which you've already done. This one is a combination of 2 press molds for the bottom and then a soft slab cylinder on top. They've added some coils. This one, I don't think the engobe use is all that great, but I thought they did a really nice job creating an interesting form with soft slab. So you could, this I'm showing you is something you could do. Oh, is that dusty? You could do something like this. And I've said, I think in these handouts I talked about it being a band of design. It doesn't have to be. I do think it's tough to get a nice even surface, and this person did a pretty good job. Where did that bear go? Huh, I had another sample that went away. This person did a nice job of covering the whole form evenly, but it's not always easy to do to get a nice coat all the way. You don't want it to be too thick, but you want it to be opaque. What does that mean from the glazed demo? What's opaque mean? What? Not see-through, exactly. Sgraffito, where you put the engobe down first and carve through, tends to look better, I think, where it's opaque. Mishima is where you make it go into the designs and details after it's fired. And this one is where it's been put on, and this, I think, tends to look better when it's more translucent or transparent. You can see through it. And the nice thing about engobes is what are engobes? Are they glazed? Hello. It's colored clay, exactly. I'm gonna send it at the end. I'm doing a demo. All right. There you go. So pass this over. So. Hey. So with these, where they're more transparent, and the nice thing about engobes is that you can actually put them on the bottom. So unlike glaze, where you have to clear the bottom because it will bond to whatever it touches, this is the colored clay. So it's just like putting another layer of clay on the bottom. So you can have the color continue all the way to the bottom. So you have some other options with it that way. Now, hang on. You can't go right now. I'm sorry, I'm about to demo there. Thank you. I'll be quick. So, quick review, building a slab. What do you do first?
Put it together. Roll it.
You put blobs of clay together, right, on the slab roller. Now, as I do that, do I just take a big giant glob and just pound it?
No.
No, you just injure your wrist, right? Ow, don't do that. But I'm going to put this on here and make my blob. How thick? About how thick is my blob? At the end, it's more of a 1/4 inch. What's it when I start? Anybody remember? 1/2 to an inch. So 1/2 to an inch-ish thick. And how long should this take me to create this blob? Does it take like a whole class period where I like take my finger and blend it? No. It's a 5-minute or less whole process, right? So if you're those, and I see this, it's always the advanced students, but they're like, I'm gluing my slab together. And they sit and chat the whole period. None of you would ever do that, I'm sure. But just know this is a quick process, and you should be quick about it so that your clay does not dry out on the canvas and you can get work done that day. So, with that, we take this, remember that we line up the 2 canvases. I check both gauges. It's at a 1/4 inch on both sides. I'm going to slide it through. Once the clay catches, I roll. Wow, I didn't know you really come around the side of the table. It's very exciting. All right, good enough. Oh, keep going. A little off the edge, that's okay. I wanted to go pretty thin so I could show you more things. All right, now, oh, there's things there. Move these. These in a random spot for now. Get them all the way. Oh, I didn't even show you these. The whole reason I started this project is because I traveled to Nicaragua years and years ago. And I found these artists in this village. Did I mention this the other day?
Yes. You wanted
And
to
they
take
made,
them
these are
all.
some of the things from, what?
You wanted to take them all.
I know, because there were so many cool things. And these are some of the little plates, wall hangings that they made. And you can see, just like remember when we watched the Maria Martinez videos way back in the day when you used ceramics ones, and they talked about burnishing it. They did the same thing with these. So it is just a colored clay, but they burnish it until it's smooth and shiny. And the same, you can kind of see a little bit on the back. I'm gonna pass these around. Careful. Very careful. You don't want to touch them? Careful, don't break it. Drop it. They're fragile. And this is another one. What's this one example of? I'm gonna quiz you now. It's an opaque color. And then the designs are scratched.
Sgraffito.
Sgraffito. Very good. I like to say it in the accent because then you remember it. All right, so I have my slab. I'm going to demonstrate a drape mold for you as one of your options. Now you can, as I mentioned, use any of the building techniques you've learned, but each project has a new building technique. So while you are advanced students now, I want to give you a choice. I want to give you something new to work with also. So I'm going to take, we have a bunch of new, brand new ceramic toys. Plaster molds, very fragile. Is it this one? One of them already has a chip on it, just from putting it on the shelf.
Right there. Second one.
Second one?
No.
This one, see? That's just from like setting it on the shelf. This one, oh, both of them? Oh, 2 chips. So be careful, is the nutshell. But they work really nicely. Now what's the difference between this mold and the press molds that you guys have used?
That one just wrapped around.
Exactly. So this one is going to go on top where the press molds, we press the clay into it, into the bisqueware bowls. So I'm going to take this, and this is a little bit stuck in my clay. And my clay feels a little dry because I set it, we'll just do that, on the slab roller last period while I was waiting. I should have thought about that. Alright, so Simon, you can roll a slab now. Thank you for your patience. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and lay it underneath here. And I want to make sure, as I do it, I'm going to go on the other side actually, because I want to make sure there's enough clay to get all the way to the edges of the press mold. And I brought these out so you could see other shapes too. We have some longer oval shapes. I have a wider plate like this. They're all stacked in the storage room, and you're welcome to come look at them after this when we get a chance to, but just to give you some ideas of different shapes. And you can use these like plates where you create the mold over this, let it get leather hard, and then add feet or add some type of decorative foot and flip the whole thing, and then you have this whole lovely surface to create your design on. Or you can do things like I've seen students use this one, make 2, and you get an egg shape and put your design around the egg shape. So you can combine them and put a base on the bottom. You can, maybe you make this one into a box, or this, then you have something on top of it. So you're welcome to combine building techniques as long as you meet your 10 inches requirement. Now, this is not complex, which is why I show this to you. Basically form it around the mold. And then, it's gonna crack a little bit because I'm asking the clay to bend and move. But I don't make this the whole project because at your expertise level, do you think you can all make this pretty easily? Yes, yes. So this is one option. If you choose the drape mold as an option, then I expect that you're going to do something more with it to give it like an interesting decorative foot, or there'll be somewhat of a different look to it so that it's not just plain like this. And then I would take a nice clean fettling knife, and I can always fix up this edge after. I'm going to first go out a little bit wider. Oh, whoops. So that I can kind of fix it how I want later. Just to get some excess off. And you can leave a lip like this. You can leave an edge. Maybe that becomes part of your design. I'll leave it so I can show you. I would be a little more careful to make sure I have straight edges. Or you can come in a little closer. You can add something at that lip. That's up to you. But I'm going to get this end all fixed up. Now, while it's on here, I really want it to get leather hard before I flip it over. So you're going to leave these, if you choose one of these, you're going to leave these in your locker overnight uncovered. And the lockers retain enough moisture. I don't know if you guys have noticed that from your wheel throwing pieces. Did they get leather hard overnight?
No.
Not even, huh? These, because it's not wheel thrown clay, there's not as much moisture in it. Hopefully one night, maybe two will be enough, or a weekend would work. But we'll have to take turns with the press molds for that too. How many of you are thinking of staying on the wheel for this project? One, two, I thought there was a few of you. Couple? All right. You're welcome to. And you're welcome, actually the rest of the projects have more choice in the building technique for the end of the semester, and they're more about other surface design things we're learning, so if you want to stick on, and the reason why we do that is so you can try those out toward the end. So now I might do something like I could take, maybe I'll do something like relate to the shape. And again, just like we've talked about, whatever you add or whatever you make part of your foot, it should relate to your overall design. And so I've asked you guys to plan a little bit, choose your technique, and plan some possible forms. I haven't planned, but I could do something like this. I could then do a smaller piece. If I were keeping this and it wasn't just part of a demo that I'm going to throw away, oh, don't drip. I might actually measure. In fact, I would actually measure. But I can, you know, create an interesting foot by like layering slabs that match the shape. Maybe I'll do another small one or a bigger one, but be thinking about what type of foot you're going to put on here. How would I attach these? What do you think, Alejandro? How would I put these together? Slip and score and slip. Make sure they're scored and slipped. Fix up the edges, things like that. Then, oh look, it's leather hard. Oh, we're pretending. I'd do more with that foot too. I'm pretending this is leather hard. It's been in my locker for a night or two. In theory, it's coming out nicely. There we go. I carefully set this down very carefully. And then I can come in here. I'd first probably smooth it. And then let's just say I'm going to paint some engobes on here as part of my design. Which would that mean? Which technique am I using? Sgraffito or Mishima? Are you sure?
Yeah.
If I paint the engobes on right now and then put my design in it?
No.
That would be Sgraffito, yep. So remember, Sgraffito is... Oh, I got some serious music playing next door. Is it?
Yeah.
And you single.
So because I want my design to show, I want to get rid of the canvas texture. I would expect, as second semester students, your craftsmanship would be at a point where there wouldn't be, every corner would be addressed. There wouldn't be canvas texture everywhere. And I'm going to work this in and smooth it out, get rid of the canvas texture, and get this, I don't want to leave it shiny. So, then, I'm very bothered. Where's that bear? Does anyone see a glazed bear with like blue overalls?
Put it back in the kiln.
He did. Why? I needed him today. You don't want your engobe to be too thick. Sad Bear is my sample of a too thick engobe because the student who made it really wanted it to be perfect. And she was like going over it, and I'm like, you know, it's going to be too thick. And then the result is he crawled. And she never, like the glaze crawled. You can leave the engobes matte like that, or you can put a, I don't have stones passed down from generation to generation that make beautiful smooth surfaces. Sorry, I'm not like a third generation ceramicist, so I don't have stones that would make it as beautiful as those. Or like Maria Martinez's family. So if you want them shiny, you just get, what is going on over there? If you want them shiny, you just gotta put some glaze on top. And the glaze, the clear glaze we have, ooh, it's a little too wet. The best thing to do, I was hoping this might still work, but no, I tried too quickly. You're gonna get a much better coat if you wait until it's leather hard. This is too early because I'm trying to do it all in a day. And you can see brush strokes, obviously not this bad if it's opaque. But I would go through like this. Sometimes you might need a couple coats so it gets opaque, but it's not working. You won't see them quite this much. So I would get a nice opaque coat. This one's not done yet. You could play with it if you wanted and kind of make the brush strokes part of your design. That's an option too. Maybe I'll do something like that. But like I said, this should have sat in a locker for a couple days to get something interesting. So something like that. There'd be option 1 with the drape mold. And after I've painted it and I carve in, what was that called? Sgraffito. All right, there we go. There's that one. Now, look at this. I can also do the Sgraffito with a, I didn't have leather hard pieces because they dried out. I left them from last week. But you can do it with greenware. Remember how greenware is it's like the most fragile stage of clay, so it's not a great idea. I don't recommend it, but you can do some on there. It works much better on the leather hard as far as not being worried about it falling apart on you, in my opinion. So you can paint different colors on. You can also blend colors together. Like I might take a little bit of this red and put it in here, and then I'll take a little bit of the brown if I wanted something earthy, for example. Those mugs that I did, these were brown and green and mostly a little bit, do I have the one? No, I must not have the one that has more red-brown. This is some red-brown on there. And then cappuccino is inside. So if you want to do something like this, this works really well to have the glaze just around the lip. If your mouth is going to touch it, it's a little rough. So you want a little glaze on that portion of it. So I could take a little bit of the brown and a little bit of the red and make a color that goes in between and kind of mix it if I wanted to, and kind of blend the different colors together. This is pretty thick. I'm gonna get a little more water with that. And you want the colors to be like the brush on nicely and give you an opaque coat when you're going to be putting it on unfired clay. So I can get some different looks. I can blend the colors and bring things in that way. Now what I would do, we have little tiny loop tools. Regular loop tools will work. These other ones here that are nice and small and work great for, get that cleaned out, work great for carving in different details. These kinds of loop tools are good for carving. They're a little bit thicker. The pointy spoon, my favorite tool. This one is an excellent one for incising lines into it. And then there's different sides you can use. This edge for a thicker line. I like this one for the flat edge for it. They're called cleanup tools. They work really nicely for getting different edges. So let's just say I want a design that's something like a smooth edge. I can carve into it. And I'm going to put these little things not on my canvas. I'm not going to brush them, because if you brush them off, it's going to actually, it creates some dust on the surface. But if you just give it a quick little puff of air away from you, so you're not breathing in little bits of dust and clay. Oops, it doesn't work as well when it's in the air, not so steady. Then I can get a little closer edge. Now this edge is chipping because this clay is so dry. That's why leather hard clay works better. You really want to be doing Sgraffito on leather hard clay. But I could create a section here. I can add details. I showed you all those things with different types of textures where you can draw, you could trace something over it. So I could add textures to parts of this. And you can get, where's the pointy spoon? You can get really nice thin lines. Let's see, what do I want to do here? Add some textures here. Kind of reminds me of like zebra-esque. Some organic lines to go with it. I'm just kind of playing right now. You can do different things.
Looks like a peanut.
It does look like a peanut. You're right. Anybody want a peanut? How many of you have seen the Princess Bride movie? Again, it's old. I'm old. It's a good movie though. It's funny. Alright. So you can play, you can add textures. We talked about tracing things, but you can get some nice crisp details. And in Sgraffito, remember, you're scratching away the color. So your design is going to be the color of the clay. That's going to give you something more like this. So this is fired and oxidation. Actually, these are both fired and oxidation. Oxidation is nice with Sgraffito, just the way our clay looks, because it doesn't get so gray. If you're going to do reduction, then you might want to think about how the colors will react. These are also fired in oxidation, but I kind of stained the surface with it, so it gives it that color. This one, which I should probably clean so you can actually see better, is reduction. So the clay turns that gray color. This was a nice little thing I used to keep pencils in, a little slab thing, but it fell, it broke. So this is, what I did for this, I rolled a slab, I crumpled paper and left it on there. There was some string, here's some tape, and some other stuff just to see what the surface would look like, and then I built with that. So that's something you can do too. If you wanted to work more with Mishima, you can roll lace over your slabs, those different pieces of lace we have, put a texture in. It doesn't have to be just a carved texture. You can create textures in any way you want, and then once it's fired, do this. So what's it called when you put the engobe in after the firing?
Mishima.
What is it?
Mishima.
Mishima, yes. So that's when we put it in after. So this is an example of Sgraffito, where I have that. Now, Mishima, this is an already fired piece. So for this, I like really watery engobes. So I'm gonna take just a little bit. I have clean water over here. Maybe I'll do blue, give it something different. You don't have to do this over a canvas. This is just sort of my workspace. In fact, I prefer you don't do it over a canvas so we don't get engobes in the canvases. It's also really helpful to clean your brush because my blue just turned gray because there was red in my brush. But that's okay. And these colors, unlike glazes, because it's oxides in clay, will stay pretty true. They darken a little bit, but not nearly, they don't change nearly as much as your glazes will change. So what you see when you put it on here is close to what you'll get. It will just darken. So I'm gonna take this blue and I can run it over here. Because it's really watery, it will pool in those textures. And the nice thing is this is a super easy way to color it, and I can get edges really quickly because it will just run into those deeper textures. So I can do things like this, and I can fade it so I can kind of stain the surface. So like here, this clay right here is going to have kind of a grayer look to it when it's done, but I've just stained the surface. So I can keep going till it gets a darker blue, or I can give it just a little bit of a hint of color. And then maybe I come back with this red and I can go right up to that edge. And look at how easy, because there's a groove in there right now, I can let it flow into that edge. But I can create edges of color pretty easily and pretty quickly. The other thing I can do is once this dries, if I want to leave more of the color of my clay and not stain the surface as much, I'll get this a little darker. Maybe I'll do some brown in here too then. So it's pretty forgiving too. I could look at this and go, you know what? It's really opaque. It's not what I wanted. Or you don't like how it looks. You can always come back in. And it can be dry for this too. Get a nice clean sponge and just brush over the top and you can take it off. And make it even more translucent if you decide you don't like it. Now if you do that and then decide, actually I do want more color there, I liked it better dark, as you put this on, it's not going to go in as well because you've already saturated the bisqueware with water. Those little pores we talked about, how bisqueware is porous, those have now filled with water from cleaning it off. So if you want it darker again, you might have to wait, give it a little time to dry, put it underneath the hand dryer, wait a day, and then go back over it again. Go back in. So, as you can see, you can cover a pretty big surface pretty quickly and have those different details and designs pick up on it. Make sure your grooves are deep enough that they really show it. So what's this one called?
Mishima.
Mishima. Yep. There you go. So I have Mishima as an option. I can just paint some colors on there as an option. I have Sgraffito as an option. You can do drape molds as part of it. Minimum 10 inches in one direction, and it needs to be, I'm forgetting the other ones. What is it? Minimum 10 inches in one direction. Must have some type of engobe. It must be a complex building form. So it can't be something you've done before in Ceramics 1 or in this class. If it's a slab box, it's got to have more than 4 sides, or it needs to be a vase, or do something more like something like this. Something where it's going to have some more complex form to it than just straight side. Any questions about any of these things? No? So we got about 15 minutes. You can finish up your ideas, plans, do a little research if you haven't found something you'd like necessarily. But I would like these worksheets with ideas today or first thing tomorrow.